Hello and welcome back to your 3ds Max tutorials. So I'm going to wrap up this set of tutorials with a brief introduction to rendering. Now I've made a little head start by drawing in a couple of splines, and I'm going to use this to create a glass, because I think that the glass material in this rendering will really show off the capabilities of 3ds Max, and we'll get to that in just a second. So I've gone through this process in tutorial 5, so if you haven't seen the tutorials, I recommend going back to that tutorial and then coming back here again to see this rendering. So that's just a spline that was used, revolved to create a glass. Okay, so if I go and render this by pressing Shift and Q, you can see that it renders very quickly, but it's very basic. You know, there's not much happening with that particular object. Okay, so if we look up here, I press Shift and Q. We can also press Render Production from our toolbar, and it does the very same thing. But the shortcuts are pretty useful. So I'm just going to take off everything here. I'm maximizing my viewport. I'm going to keep it over here. Actually, I'm going to keep it in the center for now. And what I will do is I'm going to show you how to edit your rendering options. So along this little toolbar, you can see the teapot with a little window beside it. So if you press that, now you're into your render setup. Now again, this can seem pretty daunting. I'm just going to run through a couple of basics that I found to work very useful and very efficiently. So you can change your size of your render by going down here to HD video. So automatically now the quality of your image is going to be much higher. Along here in your common parameters, you have single or active time segments arranged. This is if you have a full animation done of a particular object. Now I know I touched on animation, and if you are experimenting with animations in your own time, well, if you wanted to stop if you want to pan your animation slider to a particular stage, you can render that single scene along that, or you can render the entire scene from 0 to 100 or whatever you have your configuration set to. So you can render the entire scene. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to leave it at single. I'm just going to show you how to get it set up. So we're on HD video, and everything else along the way here I've pretty much left as default settings. There's a lot of settings in here, but I find that the default settings work just fine. Within the renderer, there's a lot of stuff that you can play around with here. Advanced lighting, ray tracer, render elements. Again, I just stick to the defaults. You'll see you have very impressive results. So let me just get down to it. So I have it set to HD TV. So if I press Shift and Q, there we have this nice render. But let's make that a little bit better, a nicer quality. So before I go down here to assign render, I'm just going to open up my material editor, and I'm just going to show, I touched on this in the previous tutorial. So if we go here, there's some standard templates that we can choose from. So as you can see, we have some standard materials, and that's pretty much as far as it goes. Now if I go down here to assign renderer, and in the production there's the little box with 3 dots beside it, and this will give you the options that you can choose from. So I recommend using your Mental Ray. It's a very efficient renderer. If you have V-Ray downloaded, it is also it's an excellent renderer, but I'm just going to stick with Mental Ray for this tutorial, as it comes with 3ds Max, with the 3ds application, excuse me, by default. So I'm just going to click on Mental Ray, and I might just add the active shade also to Mental Ray. Even though you don't particularly need to, you still get very good results. And for the HD video, usually I do have it set to the highest setting, but for the sake of this tutorial, just to speed things up, I'm just going to go 1280 by 720. Okay, so now automatically, if I go to Shift and Q, we can see a different process is happening. Now you might think that that's not that impressive just yet, but that's because the material that's on it is just a basic default material. So let me go back in here to my material editor, back to the standard templates, and now we have this mental ray set of materials that we can add. So I'm going to go to Arc and Design, and now we have a number of templates here that we can choose from. So we're going to go down here to Glass, and Solid Geometry works well. And now if we go and Shift and Q, if we render that up, okay, you can see that the quality is there, but because we have a black background, that it's not really highlighting all that much. So I'm going to close that down. I'm going to close this down, and I'm just going to draw in 2 planes. And I'm going to draw in actually 1 plane, and then I'm going to copy that plane, something like so, put a bit of an angle on it. I'm going to copy him, and let's move him back here out of the way. And let me see, go back into my modifier, and I might just make that a little bit taller and wider just to cover my screen. And I'm going to do the same with this guy, a bit wider and a bit taller, and that's fine. So now if we go into our renderer, pressing Shift and Q, this shouldn't take too long, just take a little second. So now we can actually see the quality of the glass is there. Okay, let me go back out of that again, and I don't know why the rear material, or the rear plane, didn't show up in that particular render. But however, I'm going to open up my material editor, and I'm going to go into a separate material. I'm going to go back into standard. I'm going to go into Arc and Design again. Now you could choose any of these. Again, I recommend that you experiment with this and have some fun. So we're going to go back into Arc and Design. I'm going to select a template, and this time I'm going to go with some ceramic tiles, glazed ceramic. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to put that on here and here. Now let's see how that looks in our renderer. Shift and Q, this might take a little bit longer. So what I might do is I might pause the video. Okay, welcome back. So as you can see, that's rendered up, and it's pretty nice. You can see that it's catching. It's the way that the light and the lines are actually warping around the glass. It really does make it look very realistic. Now I'm just going to look at why this particular object is not showing up in the renderer. Actually, I think I might have rotated it in the wrong direction. So what I can do is I can go down here to my modifier list and go to normal. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. If I go to normal, and what that should mean is the object material is now portrayed on the opposite side. So if I render that up again, and once more, I'm just going to pause this until it finishes. Okay, so that looks a lot better now, and we have this rear plane in action. So now what you could do is you could adjust some of these settings here to get an even better effect, but it really does slow the performance down, particularly if you're doing a large number of frames. So yes, that's good. We might just leave it at that. Actually, before we leave it there, what I might just introduce you to is just adding some lights, just very quickly. We'll add some lights into this scenario. So if we go to create, and you can see we had geometry and shapes. Now I'm just going to draw in a light, and I'm just going to show my 4 viewports for this case, and I'm going to zoom out of each. Okay, so now this is pretty much where each of your viewports can come in very useful. So by default we have photometric, standard and V-Ray. I'm just going to leave it on photometric for now. We can use a free light, which is pretty much just going to be a global light, but I'm going to use a target light. It's prompting me, yes, you are using a photometric light. I'm just going to roll with that. So now we can pick the point that we wish to target. Okay, so we can go like so, and we can adjust that then as we wish. So we can see in our left viewport that the light source is in front and the target is just below. And we can also see it in our top viewport, and we can manipulate this any way we wish. So we can put it over here, or we could put it behind. So we'll go with something like that. And we'll just run with one for now. And as I can see already that this is very bright. The exposure levels are very high. So if I go with that, I can see straight away that it's not going to work out to my desire. So I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to show you this aspect. If you go to rendering and exposure control, and because we have mental ray set, we can also adjust some of these presets. So I'm just going to run through. That one doesn't work too good. Outdoor daytime, outdoor nighttime, outdoor daylight, and I can see already that that's going to look pretty good. The shine is maybe a little bit far away from the object. It's going to go through them all just to make sure that's the one that I like. Yeah, so I'm going to go with indoor and daylight. I can close down that environment effects. Now I can move this over so we get a nice glare on the glass itself. Let's zoom in and let's render that up and see how that looks. Okay, it's running pretty quickly, so I might just leave it on for now. Actually, it's going to take a few seconds, so I'm going to pause it and I'll catch you in a second. Okay, so that looks pretty nice. You can see we get this nice beam of light, this nice realistic natural beam of light projected onto the glass. And I think we might just leave it there for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed this set of tutorials, and if you keep check on my YouTube channel and on the Design Burns website, then I'm going to constantly be adding tutorials to that particular site. Okay, so thanks for watching and take care.